Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be attempting to predict all 16 games in week 16 of the 2025 NFL season. Last week I went 10-6. There were some notable surprises. For example, the Panthers getting swept by the Saints, among other things. So I'm quite tired as per usual. I was only 4 points off the tiebreaker. So now, only two teams have clinched a playoff spot, the Rams and the Broncos. We'll see what happens in week number 16. So, first things first, we have the rematch that I've been anticipating. The Los Angeles Rams taking on the Seattle Seahawks. Both these teams picking up a big win last week. The Rams defeating the Detroit Lions despite an early Matthew Stafford interception. It's just that Jared Goff was just let down by his defense, but then again it's a typical Detroit experience. And then as for Seattle, they beat the Indianapolis Colts without scoring a single touchdown, just 6 field goals. And honestly, well played, Seattle. Your offense wasn't doing well, but the defense and the special teams got you the win. Now, the last time these two teams played, Sam Darnold threw 4 interceptions. I'm sure he's not going to do that this week. Matthew Stafford had a costly interception last week. It's going to be about whether these two quarterbacks cannot turn the ball over. It's been played in Seattle. I know notoriously the Seahawks are better on the road. They were last season. I think I'm just going to quickly look it up. Apologies for this. The Seahawks are 5-2 at home, so they must be 6-1 on the road. So 2 of their 3 losses came at home. But the Seahawks do have a strong defense. If the Rams' offense can't overpower that, well, this could turn sour. However, I have to pick whoever this is probably going to be the front runner of the NFC West. The 49ers are only 1 game back. The Rams are already in the postseason, but the Seahawks are fighting for their playoff chances. Now, I know that I'm very tempted to pick the Rams, and it did actually go with Seattle the last match, but I am going to go with Los Angeles to get the sweep. But I won't be too surprised if Seattle wins this one. They need it more. The Rams have already clinched their spot in the postseason. If they come out this game with no significant injuries, I think that's going to be a win. But I'm going to pick them to defeat the Seahawks. Wow, it is very close in terms of the bookies. Following that, we have the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Washington Commanders. The Eagles, they shut out the Las Vegas Raiders last week. It's a good performance, but it's against the Raiders. The defense is as strong as ever. The offense finally got things going, and a 99% chance going to win the NFC East. And they're going to have to take on another NFC East opponent that defeated another NFC East opponent, the New York Giants, in the Washington Commanders. Now, this one is an NFC East divisional matchup, and we know there are some surprises in this division. However, I can't... Sorry, I probably should stop recording these when I'm so tired. But that's me literally every day. My gut says Philadelphia to get a road win over the Commanders. Let's have a look. 2025 Philadelphia Eagles season. Let's have a look. Regular season. Yes, they had to play the Commanders again in week 18, so they had not played yet. That's what I was looking up. They had a 3-game losing streak to the Cowboys, the Bears, and the Chargers. And now they got the Commanders twice and the Buffalo Bills. So this is going to be an important end to the season. But if they can win this game against the Commanders, they've wrapped up the NFC East. I'm picking Philadelphia to get the win here. And we'll see if the Eagles can keep flying. I honestly don't have much else to say. Next, we have the Green Bay Packers taking on the Chicago Bears. The Packers, they lost a heartbreaker to the Denver Broncos, and they lost Micah Parsons for the season. And of course, Chris Hemsworth is back in the adverts. That's a huge loss for that Green Bay defense. And the Bears, yes, they lost to the Packers once this season. They blew out the Cleveland Browns, which is never easy to do with that Cleveland defense. But then again, the Cleveland offense is shockingly bad. They only put up 3 points against the Chicago Bears. And honestly, Micah Parsons was one of the primary reasons why the Packers were able to contain Chicago last time they played at Lambeau Field. But now they're playing at Soldier Field in Chicago. I'm actually going to give the Bears a slight edge here. The bookies are saying minus 110 on each one. But I'm going to go with Chicago to even the series 1-1. I know Tom Gross is not going to like my answer because he does not like losing to a division rival, especially the Bears, especially the Vikings, and especially the Lions. As I literally just missed all 3 of them. Okay, this one. We have the Buffalo Bills taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Bills came back from 21-0 down against the Patriots to win that game against the Patriots, which is something I did not see coming. I predicted the Patriots were going to win. I literally put it on my thumbnail, and now I look like a dumbass. But then again, I look like a dumbass every week for my predictions. They're taking on the Browns, who I've just mentioned, got blown out by the Bears last week. They're still trying to figure out what they're going to do. The only real hope this season is that Myles Garrett breaks the all-time season sack record. That's their only hope to get anything good out this season. And honestly, I do hope they get it. But the Bills' offensive line did protect Josh Allen very nicely against the Patriots' pass rush, which has not been good. I don't know. I just can't pick against Buffalo here. Yeah, heavy favourites to win this game. On paper they should win, but football's not played on paper, it's played on turf, or grass, or a combination of the two. But I'm picking Buffalo to get the win, and keep pressure on the Patriots. Then we have the Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Dallas Cowboys. The Chargers, they swept the Chiefs, they've contributed to their elimination from the postseason, and now Patrick Mahomes has torn his ACL. So honestly, things are going quite well in Los Angeles. For both teams actually, but the Chargers, now there's only a 2-horse race between them and the Denver Broncos. Even they're 2 games back from Denver, so it's unlikely that Los Angeles are going to win that division. But there's still a possible and probable wildcard team. They're taking on the Cowboys, who are the big wins over the Chiefs and the Eagles, lost to JJ McCarthy and the Vikings. Inconsistent is a word that you could use to describe the Cowboys. They're 6-7-1. I think that loss to the Vikings sums up their season. I'm going to have to go with the Los Angeles Chargers to win this one. And yes, despite the fact that I'm a Rams fan, I do have to respect the Chargers as well, because they're playing in the same stadium. both of them are on the road this week, so good luck, Los Angeles. Following that, we have the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Tennessee Titans. This one I struggled a bit with because I don't know what the Chiefs are going to be able to do without Patrick Mahomes. But they're playing against one of the worst teams in the season. One of the worst teams in the league, the Tennessee Titans, who lost to San Francisco 49ers last week. Obviously, I think Cam Ward is a bright spot on that Tennessee team. But if they're going to struggle against the Chiefs. I have gone with Kansas City to get the win. But honestly, I could see this one going either way. We have to see what Mahomes' backup can do. Apart from throwing an interception that cost them the chance to tie that game. Sorry to remind you, Kansas fans. Ooh. We have the New York Jets taking on the New Orleans Saints. The Jets, they lost to a very good offense in the Jacksonville Jaguars last week. Things are not going very well in New York at the moment for either team. With the Jets who lost to the Jaguars, and we have the Giants who lost to the Commanders. Now take on the New Orleans Saints, who have swept the Panthers and got one up over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year. It's a shame that the Saints are just mediocre against everyone else that's not a division rival. But I am going to go with New Orleans, actually, to get a win against the New York Jets. And this season might not be as much of a write-off for New Orleans as they think it's going to be. Go with New Orleans to get the win. I don't really have anything else to say about this. So let's move on. Now to another New York game. We have the Minnesota Vikings taking on the New York Giants. The Vikings, they defeated the Dallas Cowboys last week. And they now have to go to MetLife and take on the New York Giants. JJ McCarthy's been inconsistent this year. Sometimes he's been terrible. Other times he's been a living legend. So this one is going to depend on which JJ McCarthy we see. But right now, I'm going to go with Minnesota. They're already eliminated from the postseason. So it's like the Eagles game. On paper, the Vikings should win. But again, MetLife is turf, infamous for causing injuries. So I'm not going to discuss that today, but I'm going to pick the Vikings to win. Essentially what I'm going to say. This is one that I've struggled to predict because these teams are, well, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers started 3-0 and now they're 7-7. I know they've had the odd mid-season collapse before, but when's it going to end? They usually have a late season resurgence. There's only 3 weeks left. They have to play the Panthers twice. The Panthers are the only competition in the NFC South. And honestly, I don't know what the future of Tampa Bay is going to be. How did they lose to the Falcons? I have no idea. And the Panthers, they also lost to the Saints last week. In a shocking loss, they got swept by the New Orleans Saints. So at least Buccaneers and Panthers have had that in common. But I don't think the Buccaneers have been swept by the Saints. Let's have a look. I know that they did defeat the Saints 23-3 in week 8, then lose 20-24 at home in week 14. The primary problem has been, I know Baker Mayfield's not going to admit it, but that defense did cost them the game. I know Baker Mayfield's put the blame on himself, and I think some of the blame has to go on him. It's a team loss. But looking at their schedule, they had the Panthers, the Dolphins, and then the Panthers again. So these two matchups against the Panthers is going to determine who's going to win the NFC South. But I've actually gone for Carolina to get a win here. Carolina are a weird team. They swept the Falcons. They got swept by the Saints. Now they're beginning their series against the Buccaneers, which I'm really interested to see. But I'm going with Carolina. Half my gut is telling me to change it to Tampa Bay. I usually write down who I'm predicting before I record these. And I picked Carolina. But my gut is half telling me to pick Tampa. I'm going to stick with my gut. I'm actually going to stick with my gut. I'm going with Tampa. Yeah. That's the first time I ever changed my mind mid-recording with my predictions already written down. Honestly, this one could go either way, but I'm picking Tampa this time. Let's move on before I change my mind again. Okay. Now, this one I don't really know why this one exists. The Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Miami Dolphins. Well, both these teams losing to AFC North opponents last week. The Bengals getting shut out by the Baltimore Ravens. And the Dolphins losing to the Steelers. And they've even benched Tua. They're starting Quinn Ewers. E-W-E-R-S. If you've seen my X account, you'll see that I reposted that. According to Rap Sheet, Dolphins are going to start Quinn against the Bengals. I think even Joe Burrow's return games have not been going well. I'm going with Cincinnati to get a win against the Miami Dolphins. Of course, the Dolphins have got not an easy schedule to come. They've already been eliminated, so let's have a look at their schedule. They've got the Bengals, the Buccaneers, and the Patriots. I don't think they're winning any of those, apart from maybe the Buccaneers. I'm picking the Bengals this time. Then, this is going to be a true AFC showdown between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Denver Broncos. The Jaguars, they put a dominant display over the New York Jets last week, with Trevor Lawrence looked almost unstoppable. And the Denver Broncos, we know about them. They defeated the Green Bay Packers. They're actually losing right until the fourth quarter. But without Micah Parsons, the Broncos pulled away and got the win. This one is going to determine if Jacksonville is a legit contender in the AFC South. Because right now, Houston is moving right down their necks. And of course, the Colts are still vibrant, even though they lost Daniel Jones, starting Phillip Rivers. This one is, I think it's going to be closer than the percentages imply, but I am going with the majority. I am going with Denver. And seeing the Denver Broncos, I did predict them, and I think I predicted the Chargers to win too. 13-2. The Chargers will be 10-11. 11-4. Yeah, so the Broncos are probably going to wrap up the division if they can win, and if the Chargers lose to the Cowboys. But I'm picking the Broncos to win this one. They currently got the number 1 seed in the AFC. Let's hope they can keep holding that. Jacksonville, I really like their team, but the Broncos defense is really good. Then we have a matchup that doesn't really matter very much, but I still have to predict it anyway. With the Atlanta Falcons taking on the Arizona Cardinals. The Falcons picked up a win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week, avenging that Week 1 loss. And the Cardinals, things aren't going very well in Arizona. They lost to the Houston Texans last week. They just couldn't get past the Houston defense, and honestly, I don't blame them. This one, I'm going with statistics. Falcons, they're 5-9. They're 2 games ahead of the Cardinals, and they won last week. So I'm picking Atlanta to get a win over Arizona. What a week. Arizona, I really feel for you. You're in a division where you have to face the 49ers, the Rams, and the Seahawks twice a year. And they're currently literally 33. 2 of them are 11 wins, and one's got 10 wins. And you have 3. It is rough. Your 3 division rivals are literally 32 and 10, and you're 3-11. It is rough. I'm picking Atlanta. I know I'm waffling a bit, so I'm moving on now. This one is going to be intriguing. We had the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Detroit Lions. The Steelers that picked up a win against the Miami Dolphins last week. It's going to be them against the Ravens to determine who wins the AFC North. Meanwhile, in the NFC North, the Detroit Lions are fighting for their survival, so cannot afford to lose this game. The division's probably out of the question for Detroit. They're 8-6, and the Chicago Bears, who I did predict to win, are 10-4. But the first half of that game looked really good for Detroit, but their defense fell apart. The offense couldn't do much in that second half. Jared Goff was very lucky he didn't get picked off because the Rams defender decided to drop the ball. But I don't really have much to say about the Steelers. I'm picking the Lions to win. They'll be facing Aaron Rodgers, an opponent they definitely know how to play against, given that he used to play for the Packers. But I'm going with Detroit. I really hope Detroit make it to the postseason, but it is slipping away from them. It's probably going to be either them or whoever comes second in the NFC North. Whether that's the Packers or not the Cubs, the Bears. Why do they get the Chicago Cubs in my head? I have no idea. Anyway, next matchup, we have the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Houston Texans. This would be the upset of all upsets if Las Vegas get a win here. The Raiders, they're 2-12. They got shut out by the Eagles. And now they have to go on the road against one of the best defenses in the league. It sucks to be a Raiders fan right now. The Texans that are fighting for that AFC South with the Jaguars and the Colts obviously still there. Not too much needs to be said about this one. I'm picking the Texans to win. And let's move on to a really intriguing matchup. I keep using that word in predictions, am I? Mentally insane. The New England Patriots against the Baltimore Ravens. The Patriots, they blew a 21-0 lead and lost to Buffalo Bills. Not quite as bad as blowing a 28-3 lead, but still bad. They're taking on the Baltimore Ravens, who shut out the Cincinnati Bengals last week. They're fighting for their survival in the AFC North. 1 game back from the Steelers. And both the Ravens and the Steelers won last week. So this one is going to determine the AFC North and possibly the AFC East too if the New England Patriots fail to defeat the Ravens. For some reason I predicted the Ravens to get a win, but I'm going to change that to New England. Now actually I'm going to stick with my original pick. I'm going with Baltimore to get the win. And let's see if I live to regret my decision. Then finally we have the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Indianapolis Colts. The 49ers, they took care of business against the Tennessee Titans last week. They're still, despite all their injuries, they still have a shot at winning the NFC West. Because they know that either the Rams or the Seahawks are losing this week unless they tie. But this is no gimme. They have to take on the Indianapolis Colts, who held the Seahawks to only field goals, and now they have to take on another NFC West opponent. But given that Philip Rivers is aging, he looked old in that loss to the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going with San Francisco to get the win, and as for points scored, 41. End of. I don't really have much more to say. Thank you for watching, and I really hope I don't live to regret some of these picks. I'll see you next time.